All right, welcome back to the Cannabis Podcast, another episode of Last Weed Tonight with Phillip James Latham and philosophies in his podcast. Like I said, we're going to start doing more of this. This is pretty cool. So we're going to start off with just some cannabis news of the week, any updates and all that stuff, and then kind of go into the weeds about some other stuff. So, hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, hanging out. We were talking a little bit before we started rolling about RFK's confirmation hearing. And the only
Yeah.
reason we talk about him is because he said, and originally when he was running for president, that he wanted to legalize it and use the tax money to create healing centers for, opioids and pills and kind of all that stuff. Speed up to today, and as fast forward, he now says RFK will defer to DEA on marijuana rescheduling, not descheduling. And he dodges questions about his support during his hearing. So what do you think about that?
I mean, it goes back to what we talked about on the last episode. It's just like, dude, all these people are gonna be the elementary school politician of make all the promises and then not really have to keep them. But I do have one promise that was kept that I'm stoked about that doesn't have anything to do with weed, but kind of tangentially. Ross Ulbricht, pirate
What is
guy,
it?
or not pirate, Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht.
Russ Albrecht,
Trump
yep. The Silk
Trump
Road.
giving Trump giving him the pardon. That was a good promise that was kept. I appreciated that.
It was kind of,
But
that was kind of quick out of nowhere too. Not out of
mhm,
nowhere, it was quick.
but I mean, he said day one, and it was day 2 or 3, I think.
Um, yeah, and we'll get into crypto a little bit too, because the hemp Inc. blockchain and a lot of hemp carbon tax credits are going to go on the blockchains, and you're going to be able to well, fuck it, just go into it now. You're going to be able to, like, Algorand, uh XRP, XLM, all these tokenized assets, they're going to tokenize carbon credits. So where if you're holding those carbon credits, you get tax credits, because it's clean green energy that you're now holding as an asset, which is crazy to think about. I don't know how exact, I don't know the tech stack. I don't know how to do all that stuff, but I imagine they gauge how much, with algorithms and AI, like how much carbon your greenhouse is catching and kind of all that stuff. And then I'm sure they award you that kind of stuff. So, I mean, especially if you're growing hemp, you know, that's clean green energy. So there are
It can
two
be
new.
it can be converted into batteries and biofuels and all that kind of stuff. So talk about green energy. It's got multiple energy applications.
Right. So that's the one thing that bummed me out was the RFK. Like, I did a video on him. I reposted it. I did a video while he was running for president as an independent. Well, first as a Democrat, then as an independent. And he was very specific and mentioned a lot of ways he would legalize cannabis, use the tax revenue and all this stuff. And it was great. It was awesome. But just like a lot of people that become politicians, his stance has now changed. And if it hasn't, he's not being very forthcoming about, his strength for it. But the thing that I hate is that the DEA, just Trump, the reason why I don't like him deferring to the DEA is Trump just appointed like a huge drug war hawk of like 25 years to be the leader of the DEA. So it's not some progressive guy, you know, uh, that's wanting to do new forward ways of thinking, but yet still be stern and strong on crime. It's not that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's a
probably
bummer,
just
man.
saying. But
No, but
but
yeah, yeah.
Trump did say last year that he backs rescheduling and cannabis banking. Um,
Hey, man, I still am holding out faith that he can still do a lot of good during his administration. I mean, I think it will unfortunately be coupled with a lot of bad because, you know, I'm not trying to segue away from the cannabis conversation, but just like a lot of the technocratic stuff still looms very large and all the players are lining up to play their role.
well, other than tech, and we talk about this all the time, other than tech, cannabis is the only other industry that's going to have an industrial boom revolution, and cannabis and hemp actually have physical products, like physical
Mhm.
things, tangible things you can touch, you can grow it, you can sell it, you know what I mean? You can eat it, you can do anything. And if you haven't seen, check out our video about hemp clothing I just released about a week ago. As a hemp clothing,
Yep.
heck yeah, great. That's awesome. I gotta buy
So
more of them.
honestly, I'm so blown. This company actually like doesn't exist anymore. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get it.
It was funny
Get
because like all the designs are like as simplistically like Yeezys, you know what I mean? Like it's all boring, grays, blue grays, whatever. I like that stuff. I like simplicity. So I'm like, why didn't, you know, do you know how much it's just this simple for anybody listening? One tweet by like Kim or Kendall Jenner or Kim Kardashian about, hey, look, I'm wearing hemp things. What do you think that would do? Boom. Well, also, side note, they could also post a picture of them volunteering anywhere at any time or talking about what their favorite charity is, but they never do. Kendall Jenner would do a Pepsi commercial where she's like handing a Pepsi to like a cop and thinking she's doing some sort of activism while getting paid. But this is America, so make a dollar while you promote peace, I guess.
Yeah. Peace through
Um,
Pepsi. Peace through Pepsi.
I like that. Peace through Pepsi. Peace through Pepsi.
That's their new. That should be their new
You know
campaign.
what? They should just dump a million Pepsis in Gaza, and it
Yeah,
would
that
just
would make everything okay.
peace. And they just, ah! And then
And
they all
everybody
like
was and
toast each other.
everybody would celebrate it to be commercial worthy.
Don't forget one for the homies. Too soon. Sorry. Um,
Yikes. I mean,
yikes.
speaking of
Um,
that, just the fact that like in the first, I don't know, it was like the first 24, 36 hours, he was just like, yeah, you might as well just wipe out the whole rest of the of Gaza because it's like, it's already demolished anyways. Might as well just wipe everybody else out. Like, whoa,
yeah,
guy, holy schmoly. And
yeah,
Netanyahu's on his way here, apparently.
yeah,
Shocker.
yeah. So I was it's interesting that we talked about this because the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin flew across my
Mm,
Instagram. For anybody who doesn't know, he was the leader, prime minister in the 90s that was actually working real and had a peace deal with the Palestinians.
with
I don't
Arafat,
know if
right?
was it Yasser Arafat that he did a peace deal with? I don't know. It might have been before
Yeah,
Yasser
yeah.
Arafat. But,
I
far,
think it was Arafat, or Arafat like took it and ran with it
right,
because it was during Clinton's administration.
right. It was a far right. I think it might have been Yeltsin and Arafat. Arafat, who also died a multi millionaire. But we won't get into that.
Who was
Um,
also poisoned with like radiation
but
poisoning.
Itzhak Rabin's assassin was a far right nationalist that everybody at the time attributed to Benjamin Netanyahu. Like that day, they were chanting BBs, and this is so. And somehow he's managed to come back in a fourth into power, and now he's grabbing as much power as he possibly can, and now he's bombing Syria. So, which goes back to a family member and other people didn't even know that Israel was bombing Syria. And this will probably get this podcast taken down, but whatever.
It's
It
because the
is,
ADL
it's
runs all
happening.
social media.
It was like, oh, they destroyed 85% of its military forces. And I was like, wait, what? Why? Like, what? Why are you
That's a
bombing someone that's not at war with you? I don't know. I'm confused.
preemptive strikes.
Right. Peace through strength.
Yeah, that's
Peace through
right.
strength. That's what it is. I love that saying. Peace through strength.
Oh,
Um, so sticking a little bit with cannabis real quick, just another little article. Uh, the prices in Oregon plummeting. Um, it's just kind of like because how you have too much supply, no demand, and you can't export it anywhere. And to your point, we were talking about Trump. How's he going to get? How was he going to do? If he really cares about tax money and not about principles, which at this point we've all kind of seen that he's about money, not necessarily principles. Why wouldn't you legalize cannabis and get all the tax revenue? Why wouldn't you? unless there is opposing parties that do not want that to happen. Like that is the only, because it's such a no-brainer. It's so obvious. Every state, billions upon billions of tax revenue within like the first year of them, legalizing everything. And I think it was just something just the other day, like Massachusetts and all these states that legalize, they're just record sales all the time. And because why wouldn't it? It's a new product in a new market in a new industry.
Yep. Yep.
And so that's, oh, the other cool thing for all you people out there that like cannabis, which is probably everybody on here, a news and marijuana moment. Using marijuana helps most people reduce their alcohol consumption. That's obvious, but that just came out January 27th, which we say this all the time. That's another reason why weed is illegal, because everywhere you go, every state that legalizes, there is a, 10 to 25% dip in alcohol consumption, and not too different, but also legalizing marijuana leads to literally right here, decrease in use of prescription anxiety medications, a federal study shows. Another reason why weed is illegal.
Yep.
Because if
It's
you
funny.
have it's just like if you had a natural plant that you knew could do everything that ibuprofen does, why would you buy ibuprofen?
Wouldn't.
You could catch water for free out of the air. You wouldn't have to buy bottles of water.
Oh man, I was talking to my parents about this, like all the different like regulations that came down. You know, like I'm pretty sure California banned the use of gas generators.
Yeah, I don't
Um, but just a bunch of stuff like that, like gas, you couldn't use gas stoves or whatever was
know.
like a
Delay again.
proposed delaying again.
Yeah. Oh well.
No. Oh no. It is delayed. Damn it. Hold on, let's see if this changes anything.
We're going good so far though.
Yeah, we could just clip that part out.
Oh,
Better?
you're good now.
Okay, just had to change cameras. Anyways, um, that being said, um, fuck no, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, here, Trump's new DEA head says marijuana is a gateway drug that causes psychosis and other mental health problems, because he clearly is looking at all the science.
Travesty.
Right. And it's just like stuff like this. This is why I like the subject of cannabis, because it's something that's very obvious. Like when someone says something like that, it's just an old repeated, bullshit tagline of propaganda that has been disproven, but they're relying on people that don't do research, and they're relying on people that aren't going to do like what we're doing.
It's the good people on both sides problem. Anybody that, even Obama just like a couple weeks before the election was still touting that as like the you should dislike Trump cause he said this. It's
Oh, was
like
he trying to give us our habeas corpus back?
yeah,
Is
right.
that what he was saying? Is he says, guys, Donald Trump's going to give you your habeas corpus back, and I took it away. So that's fascism.
Yeah.
What would
Yeah.
fascism be called, right? Like taking away your right to defend yourself? Somebody
What a
got
lot of
somebody
communist
got
countries end up doing.
I told somebody about that the other day, and they're like, I'm gonna look that up. What is it called? Corpus Christi? I'm here in Texas, and they're like, wait, what was that called? Corpus Christi? I go, habeas corpus.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I know we were talking before about the people that don't even know the year that America was actually established, and just the fact that like there's a huge swath of populace in this country that doesn't know when, like, one, what the Declaration of Independence is or was, and two, no idea when it was signed. Or another question that I saw was like, who can you name some of the founding fathers? And they were like Benjamin Franklin. I was like, oh, important guy, not a founding
Technically,
father.
technically he wasn't a president or anything, but like I don't know.
I too adjacent for
Right. Founding
he
fathers is a very, very loose term
true.
that everybody uses now. It's like our founding father, Ulysses S. Grant. You're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Mm.
it's no, it's interesting. I didn't mention this earlier, but one thing I've observed or read in a book, and I was talking about it's just interesting to notice that after the Revolutionary War, we didn't have our Civil War for I don't know how long, right? Like almost 100 years, 80 years or something like that, 70 years or something like that. It was
Yeah,
like 18 or
1776 to
right. So say
1860.
75 years or something.
Yeah, close. Yeah, that sounds about right. Roughly
Enough
75.
time to let those, like a lot of the signers of the Constitution, Declaration of Independence were young. Like they were from 18 to 30. Like they were young. Like they weren't 40 or 50 like what people think. And so when they got older after the Revolutionary War was won, we didn't have a civil war because of the respect that the generations coming up, they knew any difference you could have, you could work it out, because if you're going to destroy the nation, a civil war would destroy a young nation like this. But once all those revolutionary founding fathers died, then the civil war started because there was no
Mm,
respectful link to teach the young generations about, hey, listen, I was there, you don't want this, or enough people respected George Washington that they just respected his word or whatever the case may be. We're coming up on that again in the form of World War II veterans dying off. So
interesting. Yeah.
when all the World War II veterans die off, which is the last thing that is globally keeping us peaceful because they know how bad World War II was, they're almost gone. So there's no one to talk sense and reason and say, look at these pictures. Like, look, I was at Normandy. I was at, wherever. I was at the bottle of Stalingrad or Lenin. You know what I mean? Like, it was
Mm-hmm.
hell. There's nobody like that anymore.
True.
Those are two interesting things that I've noticed when I've like read about history, where like obviously there's no scientific, it's just my observation, but it has to be some form of like either respect or link, like, or words of wisdom, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. Like,
Yeah.
why did these huge, massive conflicts happen after these certain generations died off? It's just interesting to note.
It's fascinating. And yeah, it's funny you don't necessarily think about some of those things until they're like communicated to you or you read them or whatever, but they make so much sense in terms of just the pacificity based on previous lived experience.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you've even still got like Vietnam vets, Korean vets that are
Right.
just like anti-war.
Right.
They may be supremely patriotic, and
And
you have
we don't give these veterans any health care, any protection. You know what I mean? They should have everything for free forever. You know what I mean? I don't think servicemen and women should pay taxes personally.
I
Like
agree with that,
I don't think anybody should pay taxes, but like
especially them.
but them, like they should get a lot of things that they don't get. Like if especially if they're not going to get great pay, like, okay, let them vote at 18.
Hmm.
Or drink at 18. Like let them drink at 18. Let them have no taxes, let them have free healthcare forever, them and their families. Like they're doing possibly the ultimate sacrifice and you're not giving them shit. So
Going to fight bankers' wars, man.
every war is a banker's war.
Exactly, and like that's ultimately because like I've kind of had some moments of hindsight myself where it's like, should I have gone into the armed forces and been like patriotically serving my country? And then I think I like now I feel like I know more about the systems that are controlling everything to think even the militaries themselves are instruments of the power structure. And at the end of the day, they're just like an enforcement arm. And even still, you have factions within those, or privatized versions of those that are wielded just as like, precariously as through, government instruction.
Speaking of that,
And go ahead.
dude, Trump said he's going to allow private military contractors to go in and take on the cartels in Mexico legally.
Well, they're terrorist organizations now. And
Right.
and labeling them as such gives him all sorts of different powers to be able to wield against them.
Right.
Absolutely.
But
And
and that's the other thing is it takes away some sort of they were talking about maritime law, like it was talking about it was like this is like a real thing. And also you don't think he's like, hey, obviously we don't want you to get hurt if you're taking on these cartels, but if you do, we got your back. Because what a better way, what a better reason to go into Mexico when you and your government or whoever, just hurt Americans. So it's getting a little
speak,
hairy. We're not
speaking of so the sending of troops to the border, I just finished watching probably a couple weeks ago the second season of Lioness on Paramount. It's another Taylor Sheridan show. Respect to him as a creative and business person because like if you like we've talked about that background before, but you know the storyline behind that season was really interesting in terms of where it started and where it went because congressperson gets kidnapped over the border, but it's essentially just a ploy through Chinese and Iranian intelligence apparatus to probe the U.S. government's military response or intelligence agencies of our own responding to it, and like then just to deal with human trafficking and how these teams of intelligence assets and military personnel and CBP and DEA and how there's even weird dynamics within these institutions. It was really fascinating because like I guess to a certain degree I kind of just had this naivete in terms of yeah, I'm sure that they all talk to each other and get along and they're all patriots serving their country and da, 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 when in fact like far from it. Everybody's got both personal and mission, whatever incentive, motivation, what have you, to do what they're doing. But to then have one of the people that was like a coyote or one of the trafficking people to scream out Allah Akbar before detonating a vest. Like I was like, whoa, like I didn't even think about the fact, like, I mean, you kind of hear some rumblings of it in terms of like the different countries that are sending migrants over the southern border in mass, military or fighting age males type of thing in a lot of conservative media. But I guess like it just didn't hit home in the way that like yeah, these people could literally be terrorists that are trafficking people or drugs or whatever, and
They could be
attacking.
legit members of the military of another country.
Right, right. and
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 like
and
we
they're
would
just
have
like,
no idea.
and they're just pouring in. Even Trump just brought up the other day when he was signing one of the executive orders. He was like, he started. It was him signing the WHO, like the getting out of the WHO or whatever.
Withdraw
And
the WHO.
he was like, we pay $500 million in a membership fee when our population is 330. Well, and then he stops himself as he tends to do with his weaving,
Yeah, he said we
and
don't know, right?
he's like, we don't really even know what the population of the country is anymore because of how many people have poured over the border. And I went, oh my God, that's such a crazy thing to think about that we don't need like census be damned that
I
that
never
didn't,
listened to those numbers because they're not accurate. Like
they can't be.
there's no way they can be. Like it was the same thing. I'm not gonna go down too much of a rabbit hole. It's just like that CVID, which by the way, you're on a little bit of a delay, but whatever. But like the CVID little ticker that was on the corner of CNN, right? Where it was saying this many people have now died of COVID, or
Mm,
and it was updated in real time. And I was like, how show me that, where's the email address, the database, that like how are you tracking that?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That's like a lottery number. Like there's no way to verify that at all. But it had its
Yeah.
intended effect, which was fear. So which also hurts your
100%.
immune system if you're
Yeah.
fearful and stressful. And it's
Yeah, man.
so
Which then, we could kind of dovetail into the whole Maha movement and the fact that for a lot of reasons, I had kind of thrown some personal support behind that in a couple different ways. But now hearing that, Bobby's invested in a mRNA
CRISPR.
CRISPR technology company, it's like, oh, okay, cool. So, Larry Ellison and Sam Altman and Elon, all these guys that are talking about how we're going to develop cancer vaccines through CRISPR with mRNA as the vehicle, and we're going to be able to turn this around in essentially 72 hours from diagnosis to vaccine generation. What? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, artificial intelligence.
The history of cancer is very, very interesting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which I don't know enough about it to like talk about the whole history or whatever, but I do know that just like Trump, Bobby Kennedy, does the HHS need a huge overhaul and all this? Yeah, absolutely. Is he the right person to do it? I don't know. I who knows? We'll see, I guess. But just
Yeah.
like Trump, like, hey, the whole system needs a shakeup. Is Trump the right person to do it? No. You know, but does it need a shakeup? Yeah, absolutely. It arguably needs to be, I don't want to say it because then I'll be labeled a not going to say terror,
Anarch-
not going to say ist, you know, but you know, I'll use this example. Like in sports, when your team is not going anywhere and you're and whatever, you haven't won a game and you've won one game or two in the last 2 or 3 seasons. Do you hold on to all these old pieces? No, you trade all your pieces that are worth something. You fire your coach, you fire your GM, and you totally rebuild, right? It's called rebuilding mode. They're in rebuilding mode. They need to do that with us. Like,
but Brett, you don't think that the Doge is going to do that?
interesting you brought that up because he just tried to get access to the payments of the treasury. And that I'm not going to say X and I'm not going to say R and I'm not going to say P. Um, but those are three little letters that people should get familiar with: XRP, XLM, those kind of things, because those
So it was,
are going to come
you
out
know,
on the blockchain.
it was funny. So my dad actually brought that up the other day to me. He was just like, yeah, Musk's after, uh, the government payment systems, like data and information. And I said, yeah, because he's literally trying to bring one of his initial ventures to fruition. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, he tried to make X.com years ago, and he wanted it to become a universal payment system, which is how he got involved in PayPal in the first place.
He said he
And
wanted it to be the American WeChat.
correct. And so I explained this whole thing to my dad, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I'm like, "See, like these are all the things. It's like once you hear it and you like get some level of verification or validation or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's far easier to kind of and like I was explaining to my mom. I'm like, it's not like knowing this information gives me great joy, or learning, studying it, or reading about
Everyone
it
doing it.
gives me pleasure, but I do find solace in a clarity of the mosaic structure of reality. Who's pulling the strings? What string are they pulling? And how is that string connected to, you know an infinite amount of other strings? You may be able to identify, 0.1% of the strings that are attached to that one point, but somebody else might have, another percentage and of a different perspective and other strings that are attached to that same point. So it's, it's
Right now,
go ahead.
the crypto uh, market right now is dumping, like as we speak, and it's because the tariffs start tomorrow. So crypto is a speculative asset. And so when people are in tighter economic times and they don't want to frivolously turn, it's just like right now why film investing is down because it's an art and it's a very speculative. You have no clue if you're going to make money. Most of the time, you're probably not. If you break even, it's a win. So the money, it's like every time they cut programs from the school, the art programs are the first ones to go, because they're opinion based, or they're not revenue based, right? So
Right.
That's what I mean. They do 6 trillion or $7 trillion from the U.S. Treasury every year, so they're going to put that on the blockchain. They're already tokenized Treasury bonds, but we're living during a huge. So if you don't burn the system down, what has to happen? It has to completely change. Which, okay, it's going to happen at some point. It's now. It's lucky us.
We're watching the transition.
Lucky us. We get to be the first ones for a front row seat. Um,
Yeah. I mean, like I think COVID was a big preliminary test run slash first step slash nth step in the process of the shift. But like Catherine Austin Fitts talked about the going direct reset and the meeting that was had at Jackson Hole, and what all that was entailing. And then you watched the corporate entities that were allowed to stay open during COVID while everybody else had to shut down. So it killed small business, it boosted to
hey, nice
expo
pun.
exponentially increase the millionaire classes,
More billionaires
already.
were created during COVID than in the history of like our country.
Yep.
And
So
that's, it's interesting you say that because I was talking to somebody the other day, and what COVID did was it showed the politicians or people in power what faction of people, whether you like them or agree with them or not, doesn't matter, would actually fight back. That's the truckers, that's the farmers, that's the Trump supporters in general, right? The
mhm.
storm the Capitol with no guns, that kind of thing.
No,
Um,
man, I heard the cop that got assaulted, that made the rounds and testified in front of Congress. He was like, these people are fucking criminals that need to be in jail. Now I've lost total faith in, the systems of justice that this country was founded upon, and blah 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 blah. I was like, man, I don't disagree with you, the fact that, like, people that attacked and assaulted people should be held to account. But all the people that were literally just like held in jail for years for walking through the Capitol, you didn't find that excessive?
Come on, right?
Be reasonable, guy. Like, I get, like, you faced trauma and got assaulted, and the guy that held you down and tased your neck a couple times, he got let out, the same as the grandma that was walking, just strolling through, or the guy that like hit the bowl in the Capitol or whatever. Like, not all of those people did the same deed, sure, but
Right. There's a reason why there's first, second, and third degree murder
right. So, like,
and conspiracy to commit murder
sure,
when
you know,
conspiracies aren't real.
right, right.
Yet it's a
Y-
legal term that we put people in jail for. Anyway, I
Yeah,
digress.
digress. But yeah, just like,
But
there was certain, go ahead.
here's some good news for you. Here's some good news about sports. NHL players are choosing marijuana and video games over alcohol and partying, with 2/3 using edibles this season. So, arguably one of the most violent sports, they'd rather go home and play video games and smoke weed than drink alcohol and party. So, that's that's a nice little fun fact.
Yeah, I had that one
Um,
pulled up here myself. I was going to bring that up. But I mean,
uh,
the NFL, the NBA, all of the professional sporting bodies are eventually going to acquiesce to the reality that the majority of the players are going
I'm
to
waiting for
turn.
that first NIL sponsor of weed.
Mm,
Who's going to be the first player that's
it,
sponsored by a weed brand or a CBD
it'll,
brand?
I was gonna say it'll be safe, it'll be CBD, but you know,
But either,
even
I mean, I'm
still,
not saying it's going to be soon, but even like the next 3 or 4 years,
sure, sure,
because
sure, sure.
there's going to be like, I mean, what's his name? Michael Phelps smokes weed. Kevin Durant openly smokes weed. Gary Payton has a weed line. Mike Tyson has a weed line. You know what I mean? Like, which,
Ricky
all
Williams,
that's
Ricky Williams,
Ricky Williams,
uh,
Snoop Dogg, Cheech and Chong, they all have their brands. The NFL doesn't suspend people anymore. The NCAA voted last, June to remove it from the banned substance list. All this was gearing up for a Biden
legal.
promised change.
Yeah.
Um,
Womp
and that,
womp.
like, I will say this is the message reason why I get mad at Democrats, not because I don't agree with a lot of the stuff they argue. It's because, don't get offended, people, when I say this, but you're weak when you're in power and you don't do what you say you're going to do. Like the cultural thing, like you see how Trump rams things down people's throats, that whether they're good or bad, he does it. You can do that with good things. So like if you're that much better than Trump and all these people, do it with good things.
Yeah.
Like codify gay marriage into law. Oh, you codified gay marriage into law, but only after they took away Roe v. Wade, proving that you could have codified Roe v. Wade, but didn't. So why? Like, why are you waiting for things? Like, I've never understood this concept. It's like what Bill Gates says, like, I'm going to give my fortune away when I die. Why? Do oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You want a statue? I'll build you one. You want a center? I'll build you 4 or 5. But what?
And get a library.
He would make it back tomorrow.
Hmm.
So just like that's what try peace. See what happens. Try money for peace. See what happens. I so that's why when people
Power power interests don't want that to happen because the people that make the money off the weapons and wars and all that kind of stuff too powerful.
right, of course. This is and actually a lot more people are coming out and noticing this now. Like because they're more people are waking up and actually doing investigation. Whether like if you want to research people I don't like, go for it. I'm going to research the people you like, but like I'm going to research everybody. But go ahead, research somebody as long as you do it with like conviction of like truth, not just looking for things that help your cause.
Yeah. It was
I'm
funny
just
that it was funny. So, the Trump meme coin, talk about crypto. Um, he ends up proving like acting as a case study essentially to show that someone can become astronomically more wealthy than they were in 48 hours to the tune of like 50 plus $billion out of literally nothing.
did you see his interview that he gave? They asked him about that, and
No.
they said, uh, "Are you planning on releasing more meme coins during your presidency because you've made a lot of money on this one?" He goes, "Oh, have I made a lot of money? How much did I make?" And he asked the guy, and he goes, "I don't know exactly how much, but it's records up of $50 billion." And he goes, "Oh, or $5 billion or something like that." He goes, "Oh, $5 billion. Oh, that's chump change to these guys." This is what Trump said on like the press briefing, and totally dodged the question, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why there's no crypto regulations yet.
Yeah.
Because why they push the tax filing thing back a year so you don't have to do it until next year. That helps him. So like if people are like, "Oh, he's going to get rich." Okay, if the guy who's winning a bunch of money at the casino and he's got like a bunch of stacks of $100 chips and $500 chips and he's just rolling on the craps table, are you going to do what he's not doing, or are you going to do what he's doing?
Yeah.
That's how I learned how to play craps in Vegas. I was like, "Oh, this guy's winning a lot of money. I'm just going to do what he's doing." And he looked at me and he's like, "I know what you're doing." I was like, why wouldn't I? I go, I don't know how to play, so I'm just doing what you do. And he goes, no, that's how I learned. And I was like, fair enough. He won like 20 grand. I won like $500, because I just, I was playing with chump change.
Yeah,
Another metaphor. Trump's making billions and I'm, making a few grand here and there.
sure.
But there's a bigger strategy to what he's doing. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about is he is creating a problem where therefore he put people in place that are prepared for the reaction. Oh, he shouldn't be able to do this. We need regulations on crypto. You know what? You're right. I got just the guy to do this right here. David Sachs, the crypto czar, is part of the PayPal mafia with Musk, with Peter Thiel, with all these people that own Palantir and all of these things. And the biggest owners behind JD Vance was Peter Thiel. The number one super PAC in the country, for everyone who doesn't know, during this last election was Fair Shake PAC, which is a crypto PAC. It wasn't pharma. It wasn't cigarettes. It wasn't military industrial complex, although crypto can be argued it was. It was crypto. So
Mm.
crypto is something is going to happen with crypto during Trump's presidency because the president released a effing meme coin 2 days before his inauguration and sucked all that liquidity out of real tokens, real utility tokens that are going to be the infrastructure of the new crypto platforms. And he made them all chase green candles and then dumped on them.
Well, then, like what I thought was funny was I was listening to somebody talk about this. They were like, "Yeah, everybody jumped into Trump, and then when it barreled out was when Melania launched hers because everybody wanted to get on that rocket roller coaster ride or whatever for the time that it
And
was.
we
But
don't think the
then,
same person released both. Come on,
well,
people.
so the other thing that I thought was funny though was Trump ended up becoming one of the top 25, on paper and in the public sphere, richest people in the world just because of the launch of that coin.
Wow.
And what one of the people that I was listening to was talking about was the fact that not as many people have heard of Larry Ellison as they have, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all those billionaires who, been in the top 10 for a
In the
while now,
public
or
database.
top 20 or whatever it is. But Larry Ellison's, there in the top five, but less people know who he is and what he did or what he runs and all this kind of stuff. He is or was the CEO of Oracle. And, just learning more about what that company behemoth is doing, has been doing, et cetera, et cetera. And, the fact that he's himself irritated with who was he talking about? But essentially, like somebody like stole. He claims that they stole the Oracle IP. I think it wasn't Palantir. I can't remember who it was. Anyways, suffice to say, like billionaires suing billionaires for
Right.
patent infringement or IP infringement or whatever, when they have all made their billions of dollars off of government contracting with intelligence agencies.
Yeah. Elon Musk is the number one taker of military contracts in the world, like in America.
Right
Like,
now, at least. Yeah.
he's like a wannabe Howard Hughes.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's our generation's Howard Hughes.
It's true.
A bunch of promises. We're going to do all this stuff and then nothing, you know?
Go to
And
Mars, bro. Go to Mars.
well,
See ya.
Mars wasn't even his idea. Mars was Werner von Braun's idea.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even Musk's idea. And people are
That's
surprised he did a Nazi salute when the first freaking director of NASA was a Nazi.
right. Well, so
Maybe
funny
he's just
actually.
maybe he's just doing what they do. Maybe you should learn about not NASA.
Or the fact that that was actually a Roman salute in its origins. So it's funny to bring up Werner von Braun because Carol Rosin actually just called me the other day, and I talked to her. I caught up with her for a little while,
Interesting.
um, and she's still out there kind of trying to fight the good fight for the the space treaty of, a de-weaponization of space, because
Mhm.
like, and I agree with, it's not a good idea to put these weapons in space that can literally destroy the planet or whatever.
You heard
And
of Operation Fishbowl?
yeah.
Everybody should look that up. That's bonkers.
Yeah.
Releasing a
Yeah.
nuke in space. Just like, let's see what happens.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Um,
sorry. Keep going.
no, she was the right hand for Werner von Braun for a while, and she was the one that he spoke to about the last card being the fake alien invasion, as being the kind of the last power play that the elites play before it all kind of comes crashing down around them in terms of all the structures that they've
Well,
put in
that's the
place.
last card they have to play,
Correct.
is the omnipotent threat. Um, because they already use it for national security. You know what I mean? Like, and then once people get fed up with national security isn't good enough for me, you know, you got to show me what you're doing, then they're like, no, just trust us. Or they're going to say you can't go outside because the weather's bad, or, carbon, or whatever. So
Hmm.
there's something up the sleeves of these people.
We'll see what comes out.
Yeah. So in a long-winded way, after an hour plus, we peppered a lot of weed in there, a lot of weed news. If you were paying attention, actually we did.
Yeah, more
But
so than other ones.
right, more so than I do wish that RFK Jr. That's a big letdown. Um, like Trump is the president's going to president, Trump's going to Trump. You know what I mean? A politician's going to be a politician. They're going to lie and whatever. But like, you would just hope, because all you can do is hope. You would just hope that the people that are in charge of our health would have our health in mind. Um, whether it's RFK or Fauci or insert name here, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I just want you to not be evil. Is that really too much to ask these days? Um, Apparently it
It is
is.
it is for Google. Oh, that's who it was. It was Sergey Brin. That's who Ellison was going after, was Sergey. No, but it was Sergey Brin. Who's the other Google founder? Not Teal.
Peter Thiel, Sergey
Larry
Brin,
Larry Page.
Larry Page.
That's who it was. He goes, Larry Page still runs that company, and he's the one that I have a problem with because he's the one that gave the direction to steal my IP. I was
And
like,
you were talking
oh,
about uh
Oracle.
Oracle, uh the PayPal mafia, all these people or whatever. I forgot what I was going to say, but they it's all people need to look up the PayPal mafia. These are all people that are, oh, you were talking about X payments, doing X
Yeah.
payments.
Hmm.
They just announced like last week. So here's news for people. They just announced like last week that X payments is coming this year. The CEO of X announced it. By the way, their XRP, their XLM, they're going to use those too. So this isn't financial advice, but for anybody that doesn't know about those two, Stellar and Ripple, XLM and XRP, they're made by the same person, Jed McCaleb, and these are payments, global payment systems that are going to be what everybody's using. XLM is more retail focused, XRP is more institutional focused. And do your own research.
Read books,
um,
read articles.
Read articles, do your own research, share them with us. If you
Yeah,
find
please.
it, send them our way. And keep watching Last Week Tonight, the Cannabis Podcast, and with Philosophies and Phillip James Latham. And we're gonna try to just talk about cannabis news and world news at large. And try to do more stuff in that regard. So anything you got
Hell
going
yeah.
on or anything like that? Or
Still, a couple movie projects, a couple other jobs, hopefully on the horizon, but we shall see. We shall see.
cool. Go subscribe to his channel on YouTube. I really wish YouTube did like allowed cross lives, like
we're gonna get our systems figured out. We're gonna be
So
on other platforms.
YouTube, there's a recommendation for you. Like allow multiple streamers to go live together. That would boost a lot of activity, I would think, because then you could watch multiple channels at once as opposed to one. Um, so
Shocking. Instagram figured out how to do that. Can't be that hard.
right, right, not hard.
Ask Mark.
Ask Mark. Hashtag ask Mark.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you being here, man.
Likewise, brother.
Always good
Always.
talking to everybody listening. Stay blessed and don't forget to tip your bud tenders, y'all.
Facts.